This channel is supported by Truefire. Truefire is an online library of
you can get the Truefire All Access Pass for as cheap as they ever do it, the $99 thing. So just jump and do that if you're looking for the best price that you can get Truefire All Access for. So, my name's Cordy, I work for Behringer. I wanted to do a video today just because I had a bit of a better gig sort of mentally than usual yesterday. I guess partly because it was just down the road, but I've also been gigging with these guys, Charge, like a few times this year and starting to really enjoy it. And I kind of figured out what I like about this band versus some of the bands that I might have played with. This is Joe, Becky, Ben and Ben. This is a band that I just dep with. So anytime you do a dep gig, it's a little bit more complicated than doing your own band that you play in all the time, because you all kind of trying to fit into another band what they do. If you're not aware of this kind of thing, it's like, I don't know, someone standing in your shift from whatever you're doing. So bands have their own ways of playing songs. Oftentimes they'll have like a recording that they want you to reference and this sort of stuff. But anyway, on gigs like this, it can be quite easy to get in your own head about stuff, and I just wanted to do a video about how essentially for I guess quite a while I sort of hated playing live, and what I've kind of learned over the years, at this point I'm 36, it's too late, but if I'd known this sort of stuff early on, maybe I would have got further than my bedroom. The first time that I would have been playing sort of in front of people would have been in church as a kid, and in some regards I was lucky to be able to get involved in that sort of situation, because I do think it's important if you're wanting to play music or like get as far as you can go in music. The people that are really good seem to get like a start quite early on, and there aren't too many opportunities for that sort of thing, I guess. But you think of someone like Matteo Mancuso, I think basically he would go out playing with his dad quite a lot, in like a gypsy jazz sort of situation. Julian Lage, there's lots of videos of him playing as a kid. I think it just helps to start playing with other people quite early in a musical setting. My dad played guitar and trombone, my mum played saxophone. So when I see a brass band, I don't know whether to eat it or shove it up my, I think is how the joke goes. Right, anyway, so growing up in church, I kind of felt like, so I would get encouraged to sort of do things that I wasn't necessarily comfortable with yet, not like in a Catholic church sort of way, but so people would like say I'd take a solo here, and to my mind as a kid I was kind of thinking like, this isn't really what church is about, is it? So I would be kind of I would have my back to the congregation, because I felt like church music was not really about playing to the audience, which I think in that context probably I maybe had a little bit of a point. Like, the whole point is it's supposed to be about Jeebus, right? But then I started a band with my brother. We had a few bands sort of growing up, and again, that's kind of a lucky thing, I think, as well. Having a sibling that you can play music with, I think, can be quite helpful and quite a good sort of bonding thing in some ways. And also you'll get to do some awful gigs together where your singer swears at the drummer. My brother was the drummer, because he was playing too loud in the church, and he'll just sit with his arms crossed behind the drum kit, my brother did, and we had to just stop the gig. Stupid. Very stupid. Anyway, but right, so that was kind of the context for me, and I'm not the most extrovert person in general. Like, I really like just sort of practicing playing at home, playing in my bedroom. That's been basically what I've really enjoyed doing for 25 years. And you get told by people like across your life, and you probably ignore them, and you think, especially if you're like me, like, you need to smile more, you need to move more, and all of these things that I was super like, oh, yeah, okay, but that's really not me. And if you really don't want to move at all, or you're really nervous about things, I think there is something to work on in this regard, hopefully. So I'm certainly someone who would get quite nervous about playing, because I think I had it in mind that what people really want from you is kind of perfection, and want you to really nail everything. And I think this comes back to sort of a little bit of this perfectionism of online stuff, which wasn't around when I was growing up. So I don't even know where I got this, but so I guess even people growing up today might have even more of this if people are going to be filming what you're playing. But so I had it, yeah, like, you've got to get everything right, and if things were not going right, I'd be like quite annoyed, and probably carry that. What is that noise? Oh, someone cutting their lawn. Probably carry that kind of longer in a gig than I should. So this is kind of what I've figured out, really, is that actually it's context dependent. So like yesterday we did a duo in the daytime where we were playing like the couple down the aisle, and in that case you are kind of not there to perform as such. You're there to sort of just be part of the occasion, right? And that part of the occasion is about just like playing something pretty, or trying to, and just celebrating that little moment. Equally, like, sometimes you might be playing in a restaurant, and it's really not about necessarily doing anything other than having something that someone can look over at and say, oh, they are playing something over there. You get people coming, oh, I didn't even realise it was live music, and I don't mind that sort of thing at all. In fact, those kind of scenarios I kind of prefer, because it's like I can just concentrate on doing the thing that I've practiced quite a bit over the years, which is just like head down playing, trying to remember parts and all that side of stuff, or try and play something that sounds pretty, these kind of things. And then the other thing, which I think is more, potentially you can earn a little bit more money doing, but more of what the industry, I think, is about, and the sorts of things that anyone watching this video could do as well. Like, anyone can join a pub band, join a function band. You could do these sorts of kind of everyday gigs. But the thing is to not be super, like, it's got to all be right sort of thing. I think you've got to be flexible. You've got to be willing that things might not sound perfect, particularly if you're doing an in-ear gig. There's like a huge battle for me over that, because I'm quite sort of, I don't really like super high frequencies, as you all know from my own tones. And then when you kind of have it in your ears, it's like this super close experience. You're going, all right, I don't really love the tone that I'm playing, and you've got to then try and deliver like a performance that is like, it has to come from you. You have to be enjoying a thing for it to come across well, I think. So you have to sort of battle yourself in this, is what I've found, is that no matter what is happening in your ears and stuff like that, you have to try and get through it, and just sort of remember that you're supposed to be at the point when you're playing in a wedding band, which actually I think some people really hate the idea of. For me, I kind of really enjoy it from quite a lot of points of view, because I try to enjoy like pretty much every song that's coming by, like try and see what's great about that song, or try and find something to enjoy about it. You can't play a song well if you hate it, I guess, is my kind of thought on this. Like, you have to respect the song in order to play it, and play it with a bit of respect. Otherwise, yeah, I think like playing a song that you don't like with it in mind that you don't like that song doesn't really work. I've done that with people before, and it doesn't really work. So yeah, you have to respect the song, enjoy it, but equally I think it's also about trying to keep this sort of freer state of mind, where you're like looking around at the band and going with the flow, and just, even if things aren't exactly what you expected, do the thing that you're doing with a bit of conviction, and probably people will think that you intended to do what you were doing, or follow the band and you follow them, but not this super thing. I think this is the thing which you can really find hard if the rest of the band aren't interacting with you, and this is the thing I really love about gigging with Charge, is that Joe, the bassist, is like constantly like sort of looking around. He's got a God mic as well, where he can talk and just the band hear it. But it's about that interaction on stage, and if you're having a good time on stage, this is the thing that I missed as like a moody kind of teenager, is that you're setting kind of like the vibe for the rest of the room. And I guess that's a little bit of a thing coming from like a prog background and church as well. These things where it's more about the music than actually a performance, and that's the bit that I really hated about kind of playing live. And that's now what I've figured out, is that you can kind of be a bit of a silly goose. You can kind of have a way more fun if you take it a bit less seriously, you know. Don't completely like disregard trying to play the thing musically as well. That's part of it. But I also find that my solos and stuff like that are better when I start to forget about like each mistake as it happens, and try and just go, right, well, whatever, because you're not going to get through a 2-hour set without making a single mistake generally, right? Particularly if it's not a well-rehearsed situation. So just let those things pass, and remember that it is live music, and that's kind of part of the thing. I think part of what people want is that sense that something could happen. It's not about an absolute perfection thing at all times, and that is also part of what can make it quite surprising and fun when something really different does come out. And that's kind of what I've found that I love about this live music situation, is that in a good situation and in a good gig, you can have these sort of communal moments where it's like, right, the audience are really having a good time, and hopefully they're drunk, and and all that sort of stuff. And meanwhile, the band are just having sort of fun making music together. And the further it gets away from that, to me, the more difficult it gets to actually deliver a thing. Equally, there are other types of music, of course, where it's a bit of a different situation, like where you're quietly sitting down in a restaurant and trying to play jazz. That's a whole different scenario. But equally, I still think it's best to keep it in mind that there should be not necessarily joy, but in some circumstances, like joy and beauty and these kind of things can often come in hand with a little bit of a lighter sort of mood to stuff as well. Except for like Nirvana type music, right? Or something which is intentionally moody. But I guess that's not what all of us are playing all of the time. you're going to be playing Brightside, aren't you, to 3 people? So yeah, I don't know. That's how I find a way to love live music and playing live. It's that I've just learned to not take myself so seriously in this situation. It's not even about you particularly. It's about like the whole band trying to have a good time, you trying to do the best that you can, but also not be sort of in your own head and go, oh, I really hate my playing today, that sort of stuff. Just, it doesn't really help anyone get through the gig. So I guess be a bit of a more bubbly character and you might have more fun with this, probably. I don't know, or just get drunk and try and play. It might work too. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, how you get through gigs. Do you drink on a gig? Do you not? Yeah. How do you find it? Have you ever done any of these depth gigs where you're playing with people you don't play with all the time? What have you found? And over the years, have you kind of warmed to this idea that it's actually about trying to make other people have a good time rather than you just be like in your head and playing the thing right? It's kind of not even, it's like half of the thing, right? But the other half is trying to cultivate a bit of energy and that sort of stuff, which I struggle with, obviously. Right, catch you in another video soon. Cheers.